but I'd have to agree with Rodman. If he was black, he'd be just another good guy.
Let me tell you the real reason players feared Larry.
Isaiah Thomas once called him a basic white boy, but Magic knew that label was way off. Larry Bird wasn't basic at all. He was cold, calculated, and mentally ruthless. This was a man who could break down the league's toughest defenders without saying much, then turn around and drop buckets left-handed just to prove a point. And that 13-ton gravel accident at his mom's house, that wasn't just a random injury. That back-breaking moment quietly set the clock on his career and changed everything. Then came the 1991 phone call that showed just how deep this bond ran, a moment that proved Larry Bird was the one voice Magic Johnson truly needed in a life-or-death storm. But before that, before the titles and the headlines, you need to see why grown men in the NBA genuinely feared him. And it all starts with one game that flipped the script forever. Magic Johnson didn't walk into the early 80s thinking the league would bow down. He had swagger, sure, but he also had paranoia. His daily routine proves it. Every morning, before coffee, before food, before practice, he grabbed the newspaper and checked Larry Bird's box score from the night before. Not casually either. He studied it. Points, rebounds, assists. Every detail mattered. That wasn't curiosity. That was strategy. It was like a general reviewing battle footage, locked in on the one opponent he knew could wreck his plans. Magic wasn't just competing, he was calculating. Because deep down, he understood something most players didn't want to admit. Larry Bird was different. Now rewind to 1979. This obsession didn't start under NBA lights. It started in the 1979 Division I Men's Basketball Championship, Michigan State versus Indiana State. Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird. Flash versus focus, big personality versus quiet fire. You might think it was just another college final, but no. Over 35 million people tuned in. It's still the most watched college basketball game ever, bigger than most primetime shows today. The pressure was unreal. Bird came from French Lick, Indiana, a tiny town most people couldn't find on a map. He dragged an overlooked program into the national spotlight with pure skill and stubborn confidence. Magic was the smiling superstar from Michigan State, all charisma and shine. It felt like two different worlds crashing into each other, style versus substance, city lights versus country grit, every sports storyline wrapped into one showdown, and somehow it delivered. Magic won that night, 75-64. On paper, he had the edge. He dropped 24 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and handed out 5 assists. He looked like the future, but here's the part that stuck. Bird didn't flinch. He didn't look rattled. He didn't complain. People in that arena said he looked calm, almost like he was already plotting the next chapter, like he was thinking 5 moves ahead while everyone else was reacting. That energy, it bothered Magic, because that season, Bird had been unstoppable. Nearly 29 points a game, around 15 rebounds. He carried a team with zero history all the way to the biggest stage in college basketball. One guy, no hype machine, just production. And even though Magic won, he later admitted Bird was the one player who made him truly nervous before tip-off. Let that sink in. This is Magic Johnson we're talking about, a man who would help redefine the NBA. And the first time he faced Bird, he realized this dude is a serious problem. A few months later, both stepped into the NBA, and the league was in trouble. Ratings were shaky. Some finals games aired on tape delay. The shine was fading. The NBA needed stars in the worst way. What it got was something bigger than marketing. It got a rivalry that felt electric from day one. Magic landed in Los Angeles with a loaded Lakers squad. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Norm Nixon, talent everywhere. That team was built to win right away. Bird walked into a Celtics franchise that had just gone 29-53. 29 wins, 53 losses. That wasn't a contender. That was chaos. Then Bird shows up as a rookie and drops 21 points and 10 rebounds per game. Suddenly, Boston jumps to 61 wins. That's a 32-win improvement in one season. One player flipped the entire identity of a franchise overnight. And he didn't do it with crazy vertical leaps or flashy dunks. He did it with footwork, timing, sharp passes, and a fearless mindset. He talked his talk. He backed it up. He made the game look simple while breaking down elite defenders possession after possession. Then the Rookie of the Year race heated up. Magic put up 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists per game on a stacked squad. The numbers were strong. The spotlight was bright, but Bird was dragging a once-broken team into powerhouse status, and that tension, it was only getting started. But Bird didn't just put up numbers. He dragged the Celtics to wins, locked in on defense, controlled the offense, and snatched Rookie of the Year right out of Magic's hands. And Magic noticed. From that second on, this wasn't just a rivalry on paper, it turned mental, because players can deal with someone who jumps higher or runs faster. That's physical. You adjust, you train harder. But what messes with you is a guy who already knows your next move. A guy who makes the court feel tight, like there's nowhere to hide. A guy who turns one small mistake into a headline moment. Bird was doing that by 1980, and the league felt it. And this wasn't about trophies anymore. The tension jumped off the stat sheet. It slid into practices, into film sessions, into late-night team talks. Magic had to game plan around Bird every single time. Every cut, every pass, every matchup had a mental chess match attached to it. By the time Boston was rolling again, Magic wasn't just competing with Bird. He was thinking about him constantly. What happened next took it even further. On the court, off the court, inside the heads of defenders across the league, Bird's presence started to grow. And when the rest of the NBA realized this quiet guy from Indiana wasn't going anywhere, the panic started spreading fast. Most players use trash talk like background noise. You can't guard me. Too small, that type of stuff. It's heat of the moment talk. But with Bird, it was different. It was specific, detailed, almost spooky. He would tell defenders exactly what he was about to do. The spot on the floor, the move, the shot. Then he'd go do it anyway. That's the real trap, because if someone hands you the blueprint and you still can't stop it, that doesn't just hurt your pride. That makes you question yourself. The first time the whole basketball world saw this mind game play out in public was the 1986 three-point contest. First year they even held the event. The best shooters on the planet were in that locker room. Craig Hodges, Dale Ellis, sharpshooters who made a living from deep. Everyone was locked in, serious, trying to get focused. Then Bird walks in, still in his warm-up jacket, calm as ever. He looks around and says, "So which one of you is coming in second?"
Boom! Bust the door open, walk around. You might do a little something. Nah, you ain't got, nah, you shot yourself out in warm-up. Talking about Leon Wood. He said, nah, you shot yourself out. Who coming in second?
And the wild part, he wasn't joking. To him, it was already decided. He goes out there, keeps the warm-up on, and wins the whole thing. When he released the final money ball, he didn't even watch it drop. He turned, finger in the air, already walking toward the trophy like it was scripted. That wasn't confidence. That was control. But things got even colder in 1985 against the Atlanta Hawks. This is the night Bird dropped 60. Not just any 60, this was theatrical. He was calling shots mid-game like he was directing traffic. At one point, he told the Hawks bench he was going to hit a shot and fall into the trainer's lap. Next play, he drains a tough fading three, gets fouled, and crashes straight into the Atlanta trainer's lap, exactly like he said. It got so wild that Hawks players on the bench were jumping up in disbelief. Some were laughing, some were stunned. Their own coach, Mike Fratello, fined players the next day for cheering the other team's superstar. Think about that. Your opponent is cooking you so badly that your own bench reacts like fans. And if that sounds bold, 1986 brought another level. Before a game against the Portland Trail Blazers, Bird told teammates he was bored being the best right-handed player in the league. So he said he was playing left-handed that night. Not one quarter, not a few possessions, the whole game. He goes out and drops 47 points with a triple-double. 20 of those points came from his left hand, post moves, floaters, layups. He made it look routine.
Larry told all of us and the media, he said, tomorrow night's the last game of the trip. I'm going to play this one left-handed.
C-Sting for Larry Bird. Bird with the left hand and it stays.
After the game, reporters asked why he would even try something like that. Was it disrespect? Was it ego? Bird stared back and calmly said he was saving his right hand for the Lakers. That's the type of energy that gets inside a league's head. It wasn't just talent. It was psychological warfare, played with a straight face and backed up every single time. People love to stack up Bird and Michael Jordan like they were built the same. They weren't. Jordan was a physical hunter. He would rise over you, slice through you, and overpower you with pure athletic force. It felt like a storm coming downhill. But Bird went after your mind. He didn't just want to score, he wanted to prove he was sharper than you, smarter than you, one step ahead at all times. Look at the Xavier McDaniel moment. Late in a tight game, Bird locks eyes with Xavier, one of the toughest defenders in the league, and points to a spot on the floor. Calm as ever, he says, "I'm going to stand right here and I'm going to hit it right in your face." No drama, no yelling, just a warning. Xavier plays him perfectly, smothers him, times it right. But Bird still gets to the exact spot, fades away, and drills it. As he jogs back, he casually says, "I didn't mean to leave 2 seconds on the clock," like he was annoyed he gave them any hope at all. That's not normal confidence. That's mental control.
They called a timeout, and he turned around and looked at me and said, "I'm going to score right here on you." And I said, "I know you will. I'll be ready."
And here's the wild part. Even the Detroit Bad Boys, the most feared physical squad in league history, started cracking under that pressure. Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, guys who built their reputations on intimidation. They could knock you down. They could rough you up, but they couldn't outthink him. Isaiah Thomas later admitted Bird's presence created straight panic, and that panic led to one of the most unforgettable plays ever. Game 5, 1987 Eastern Conference Finals, 5 seconds left, Pistons up by 1, ball in their hands, the series on the line. All Isaiah had to do was inbound cleanly, and Detroit likely goes up 3-2. Simple, right? But Bird had been reading everything all night. Isaiah, worried about Bird jumping the play, rushed it. He lofted a soft pass toward Bill Laimbeer, and just like Bird had predicted, he slid into the lane, stole it clean, and flipped it to Dennis Johnson for the game winner. Just like that, control shifted. That wasn't luck. That was anticipation. After that heartbreak, frustration spilled into the media. Rodman and Isaiah made comments saying, "If Bird were black, he'd be just another guy." That line stirred up noise everywhere.
But I'd have to agree with Rodman. If he was black, he'd be just another good guy.
Years later, when Magic Johnson was asked about it, he didn't co-sign it. He made it clear they were off base.
That boy, he can play, man.
Magic understood something deeper. Bird wasn't great for a white guy. He was a basketball mastermind who happened to be white, period. And even as the league got faster and more explosive, Bird's mental edge didn't fade. In 1987, rookie Reggie Miller tried to chirp at him while he was at the free throw line. Bold move for a first-year player. Bird stopped, stared at him, and said, "Rook, you gotta be kidding me. I'm the best shooter in the league right now. Understand?" Then he calmly knocked down the shots like it was practice and walked off. Lesson delivered.
Trouble is once. He's like, "Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? I'm the best shooter this game has ever seen. You think you're gonna be able to ice me?" As he's talking. Next one, wah.
In 1991, Shawn Kemp was the new high-flying star, all power and flash. Bird was battling serious back pain at that stage, moving stiff, clearly hurting. But he still looked at Kemp and said, "I'm the best player from Indiana, not you." Then he proceeded to outplay him mentally all night. Kemp still talks about that matchup to this day.
Larry Bird talking to you saying, "Yeah, I'm the best from Indiana. Put a 3 under my ball." That's true?
It is very true. So, I look in the mirror, I'm like, well.
That's why Michael Jordan once called Bird the new sheriff when he came into the league. Jordan saw it. Magic saw it. They knew Bird had a presence that didn't rely on speed or vertical leap. He felt inevitable, like the ending was already written and you were just acting it out. Kobe Bryant studied Bird too. Kobe had him in his top 5 ever, not just because of stats, but because of that cold mindset, that I'll tell you exactly what I'm about to do and you still can't stop it energy.
Me and Jordan, Magic, Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Jerry West.
If you watch Kobe closely, you could see it. Jordan's athletic fire mixed with Bird's IQ and precision. But here's the darker layer. While Bird was breaking down opponents mentally, his own body was quietly breaking down physically. The hits, the dives, the endless grind. And then came that cheap driveway job, a simple fix that turned into a nightmare and nearly cost him everything. Before we even get to that part, you have to understand the resume, the awards, the moments, the fear he planted across the league, because without that context, you can't fully grasp how high he climbed before the pain tried to drag him down. Larry Bird stacked his resume in an era that felt like a nationally televised street fight. This wasn't soft basketball. This was elbows, hard fouls, and no easy buckets. And in the middle of that chaos, he collected 3 NBA championships, 12 All-Star selections, and a Rookie of the Year trophy he took right from Magic Johnson. The wild part, he did it after joining a Celtics team that had been a total disaster the year before. And then came the run that stamped his name in history. 3 straight MVP awards, 1984, 1985, 1986, back to back to back. Only 2 other players have ever done that. Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell. That's the entire list, no footnotes, no extra names. Bird sat at the top of the league during one of the roughest eras the game has ever seen. You have to picture the environment. This wasn't today's space and pace league with friendly post-game jersey swaps. This was the age of enforcers. Maurice Lucas, built like he'd rather bruise you than let you score. The Detroit Pistons turning every paint touch into a collision. Teams weren't just trying to win, they were trying to wear you down. And right in the middle of these explosive, elite athletes stood this tall, slow-looking guy from French Lick, Indiana. He didn't look fast, he didn't look flashy. Some said he moved like he was running through mud. On paper, he didn't fit the image of a superstar. But on the court, he controlled everything. Ask Michael Cooper. If you don't know Cooper, he was the defensive weapon for the Showtime Lakers. Long arms, quick feet, built his career on guarding the best scorers in basketball. Bird himself called Cooper the toughest defender he ever faced. Yet Cooper has admitted he hated guarding Larry. He's described Bird as a savant.
And you know what? I hate Larry Bird, but I respect the hell out of that man because I went against him in all those championships.
The Lakers would hold full team meetings, Magic, Kareem, Pat Riley, all of them, just trying to figure out how to slow him down. Imagine that. A loaded dynasty sitting around a whiteboard trying to solve one man. Cooper said, the scariest part wasn't the jumper. It wasn't the trash talk. It was how Bird processed the game in real time. You could defend him perfectly for 23 seconds, stay glued to him, cut off every angle. And in that final second, he'd spot a backdoor cut or thread a pass through a gap that didn't even look real. It felt unfair. So where did that brain come from? It started in Indiana dirt. Bird grew up with very little, wore the same clothes to school. His family struggled just to get by. That pressure built something inside him. Basketball wasn't a hobby. It was survival. It was his way out. When he carried Indiana State to the 1979 national championship game, it wasn't supposed to happen. That school wasn't a powerhouse. It wasn't even on most people's radar. Yet he dragged them into the most watched college basketball game ever. 35 million viewers tuned in to see a kid from a town of about 2,000 people. That kind of rise earns respect, even from rivals. And speaking of respect, Pat Riley once said something that says it all. He said, if I had to pick one person to take a shot to win a game, I'd choose Michael Jordan. But if I had to pick one person to take a shot to save my life, I'd choose Larry Bird. That's not hype. That's a coach who battled him at the highest level, admitting Bird was ice cold when everything mattered. So the real question is how? How did a guy who didn't look like the fastest, strongest, or most explosive player make elite athletes look average? Because Bird had a system, a ruthless formula. It started with what sports psychologists call the knockout effect. When Bird pointed to a spot and said, I'm gonna stand right here and I'm gonna hit it right in your face, he wasn't just talking. He was planting doubt. The NBA runs on instinct, quick reactions, muscle memory, but the second you start thinking, is he really about to do that? You're already a step slow. That hesitation is deadly. He'd make you question yourself for half a second. That's all he needed. While you were processing the possibility, he was already moving, already rising, already releasing the shot. And once he proved he could do exactly what he said over and over again, the doubt got louder. That's how he broke defenders. Not with speed, not with flash, with certainty. But this wasn't magic. There were real mechanics behind it. Footwork, angles, timing. He mastered the small details that most players overlook. And once you understand those pieces, you start to see why so many legends walked away shaking their heads after facing him. Bird lived by what I call the 3-inch rule. Most players need a full step, a blow-by lane, a clear runway to beat you. Bird, He only needed 3 inches. That was it. A tiny pocket of space and it was over. He mastered the step back before it became a highlight trend. Long before social media clips made it famous, Bird was already using it like a precision tool. He picked up the move from a little-known teammate, Terry Duerod, a bench guy most people forgot. But Bird studied it, sharpened it, and turned it into a straight weapon. Since he wasn't going to outrun anyone, he focused on balance, angles, timing. He'd hit you with a small shoulder twitch or a subtle head fake. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make you lean a fraction the wrong way. The second your weight shifted back, he stepped away, and the shot was gone. He wasn't battling your speed, he was attacking your center of gravity. That's chess, not checkers. Then there was his bait and punish system. Most superstars get irritated by double teams. They rush shots, they force plays. Bird, he invited it. He'd post up in a spot that looked exposed on purpose, almost daring the defense to send help. The moment that second defender committed, Bird's vision kicked in. He saw everything. Cutters slicing baseline, shooters drifting to the corner, big men sealing inside. It was like he had the court mapped out in his head with turn-by-turn directions. You doubled him at your own risk. But here's where things got complicated. It's one thing to lose to a basketball genius. It's another thing to deal with the noise around it. The media pushed a label on him, calling him the Great White Hope. That branding rubbed people the wrong way. It created tension. Some players felt like the spotlight came with extra baggage. Imagine grinding every day, sacrificing your body, and watching a guy who didn't look like the typical superstar get constant praise, even when he was backing it up. After the 1987 playoffs, Dennis Rodman told reporters Bird was overrated and that he won MVPs because he was white. Years later, he doubled down and said Bird wouldn't survive in the modern era. Those comments weren't just about basketball. They were about perception. But here's the truth. Bird didn't control the headlines. He controlled the game. And when the ball tipped, all that talk faded. Now comes the part that hurts. In 1985, at the peak of his powers, Bird made a decision that changed everything. Instead of hiring professionals, he chose to shovel 13 tons of gravel himself to fix his mom's driveway. 13 tons by hand. He was a league MVP, a multimillionaire, and still out there grinding like a regular guy. That stubborn pride cost him. His doctor later explained that the heavy labor shifted his spine out of alignment. The damage piled up. The pain never really left. He kept playing through it because that's who he was. Tough, quiet, relentless. By the time the 1992 Dream Team hit Barcelona, Bird was fighting his own body. While Jordan and Magic were flying high, Bird often lay flat on the floor behind the bench because the nerve pain was too intense to sit in the chair. Think about that. One of the greatest players ever, stretched out on the ground just to get through the day. He still won gold. He still stood on that podium, but he knew the end was close. When he walked away, it felt like the final chapter of the 80s closed with him. The league was shifting. A new era was rising, and the one man who finally cracked the code, Michael Jordan, took the throne. Even in retirement, Bird's influence didn't fade. New stars studied him. Big men, guards, scorers, all of them borrowed pieces of his approach. Shaquille O'Neal once admitted that early on he thought Bird was just a shooter hyped up by media talk. But after studying the tape,
I wasn't a fan of Larry Bird growing up because I thought everything he did was lucky. When I started, getting older and, seeing guys put in work, I realized that he is one of the greatest players ever. And it's not small skill.
Even Shaq had to give it up. He recognized Bird as one of the greatest to ever do it. When a dominant force like Shaq says that, it carries weight. And then came the moment that reshaped everything. For a decade, Magic and Bird were rivals, real rivals, finals battles, hard feelings, no friendship in sight. But in 1991, when Magic announced he had HIV, the world froze. Cameras everywhere, headlines everywhere. The first call he received wasn't from a teammate, it was from Bird.
Called me, we're talking, it's just, how you doing? I heard about it. And you can almost hear both of us with some tears in our eyes. And I'm choked up because he did call me. And,
That call changed the relationship. For the first time, they weren't Lakers and Celtics. They were just two men who understood pressure, expectation, and the loneliness that comes with greatness. Magic later said, that while many people treated him differently after the announcement, Bird treated him the same, like a brother, like a human being. That mattered. The final powerful image came at Bird's jersey retirement. Magic stood there with a Celtics shirt under his Lakers jacket. He looked Larry in the eye and said, "This is my brother."
One lie. You only told me one lie in your career.
That's pretty good.
Only one. And you only lied to the fans and all the people in the world one time. And you know what that lie was? You don't remember, do you? Larry Bird said that there would be another Larry Bird one day. And Larry, there will never, ever, ever be another Larry Bird. And so, I don't care how many people, how many players, there will never, ever be another Larry Bird. So, you take that to the bank.
After years of war on the court, that was the real legacy. Respect earned the hard way. So when people ask why the league feared Larry Bird, it wasn't just the rings. It wasn't just the MVPs. It was the mind games, the precision, the courage to call his shot and live with it, the toughness to play through pain, the ability to turn enemies into lifelong respect. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves basketball history. Drop a comment and let me know where you rank Larry Bird all time, and I'll see you on the next one.